I have 2 questions for these candidates, and then we're going to do something a little different in that each candidate will be able to ask the other a question, and they'll also be able to respond to that question. So, if the candidates would introduce themselves in a minute and a half and also respond to the following question. What strategies will you support to reduce the disproportionate arrests, prosecutions, and sentencing of African American males, people of color, youth, and low-income citizens?
I always tell the truth. Good evening, my name is Tom Carr. I'm your city attorney. I've been city attorney for 8 years. And this is a question I've been working on since day one. When I ran in 2001, I talked about the gap between the social service system and the criminal justice system. How so many of our defendants were sick or mentally ill or addicted, and that we needed to work on changing that, work on coming up with better answers. So here's what I've done. In 2005, I helped found the Seattle Community Court, which takes individuals who commit nonviolent offenses and gives them an opportunity to do community service rather than go to jail. I helped create the Drug Market Initiative that just ran in August right down here on 23rd between Jackson and Union, where we took low-level drug offenders, we built cases against them, then we brought in people who were influential, gave them a chance not to go to jail. We brought in community services, including Seattle Vocational Institute, to make a difference with them. I looked at the driving while license suspended numbers that have been such a problem for so many years, and 2 years ago I decided first-time offenders don't generally reoffend. So I started dismissing those cases. 80% of those defendants don't reoffend. So the grand total of all of that, when I took office in 2001, the average daily jail population in Seattle was 409. Last year it was 254. Now,
hi everyone, thank you for having me here tonight. I'm Pete Holmes, and I very much want to be your city attorney because we need an enlightened, progressive voice in this office. I've been a lawyer for 25 years, 24 of them here in Seattle, 23 here in the Rainier Valley. I left my legal practice to be the chair and lawyer member of this city's very first police oversight board, where, according to the current city attorney, I was disruptive. I was disruptive in pointing out the following things: that the city's police chief had interfered with investigations of misconduct, that we were not being transparent in the way we oversaw our police. We were not honoring your right to know what the city was doing. Consequently, I am running for city attorney because I believe the city attorney needs to be reminded that he works for you. We elect the city attorney, not appoint one, because he's supposed to represent the people of Seattle. Right now, despite all the programs you've just heard about, we're bound and determined to build $250 million new jail. $250 million new jail in Seattle, simply because the city attorney has not truly taken responsibility for the charging decisions that are made in this office and how they impact all of our communities of color and minority communities, especially disproportionately. And we'll talk some more about that tonight. But behind the talk, you'll have to look at the reality. Why are we on our way to building a jail? Is it because the city attorney's forgotten who he represents?
Thank you. Our second question.
You won't have to lock them up if you go to school.
As a representative and attorney for the city, how will you use your position to demand police accountability to Seattle residents? We'll start with Pete.
Thank you. I think that the first answer for most issues involving good government is one of transparency. It's amazing how if you hold your elected and appointed officials accountable by insisting that what they do, as our president said, is conducted in the light of day, it's amazing how suddenly those decisions make a lot more sense. And accountability is no different. We actually have a very good police force. In fact, it's so good that I'm surprised at how resistant to transparency it is. And yet, there are problems in every police force, believe me. And the only way that we can do our job is to make sure that you see, in the light of day, how we investigate misconduct and how we deal with it. When I was on the Seattle the Police Review Board, I learned several things. One, for instance, as a matter of course, if you file a complaint against the police, what was the first thing the OPA did? The Office of President, they did a criminal background check on you as a complainant. We also learned that the chief of police was interfering with investigations. Rather than letting the chips fall where they will and then make a decision, We learned that that was not being honored at this division. And so you'll hear a lot of people talk about transparency, and yet there's very few of them that will take the stand when it's really necessary. And I did. I took a lot of heat for it. That is exactly the passion and exactly the dedication to transparency that I will bring to the office of the city attorney. You need a city attorney who's dedicated to your right to know.
Yes, thank you.
You need a city attorney who gets the job done. That's what I have done over the last 8 years. You need a city attorney who gets the job done. That's what I have done over the last 8 years. I have charged police officers with crimes. I don't make a big deal out of it because they're criminal defendants like everybody else. But we have done that. I charged a police officer with assault for pushing an Asian gentleman down in a crosswalk. I got no end of grief about that from the police union, but I did it because it was the right thing to do. Police accountability starts with accountability in office. My opponent did lead the Office of Professional Accountability for 6 years. I don't think police accountability got any better during those 6 years. We got a lot of press releases, but we didn't get any better. The question of just the board being able to see unredacted files. You know who got that achievement? I did. We won a legal case just last week. If you look at the case, it's got my name on it. I fought for years for you to get that right. I mean, people talk about things, I get them done. Police accountability starts. We now have 29 changes that were made to the police accountability system as a result of an independent committee that came in after my opponent left, which did not include my opponent and didn't include most of the recommendations that he suggested. Police accountability is something that's very important. I have a track record that you can look up and find. I'd like to see my opponent's track record. It's not there.